Hi, my name is Ana Regidor. I'm the host of Creative Morning Berlin. Today we are at Workish Berlin in Neukölln. Our speaker is Susann Massute. She's an illustrator for the Freitag. I hope you enjoy the talk.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Susann Massute, very recent. Never mind the grid, here's der Freitag. Thank you all for coming. In this talk I show you some of insights in my work as a title designer for the weekly newspaper Der Freitag. Everyone has one. And also how I connect punk ethics in our everyday design work. But let's start with the depressing part. It's 2025, the world is on fire, and I think humanity has some seemingly unsolvable challenges ahead of it. And are these still good times for left-wing newspapers? Anyone reading a newspaper at all? I think it's so hard because every major news outlet is facing the print is dead crisis, and nobody wants to pay for online journalism. I don't know if anyone of you is still reading physical newspapers. But in the end, I think in times of crisis, it's more important than ever to have diverse critical voices. A few words about my employer. Der Freitag is a kind of a more small weekly newspaper published nationwide in Germany. We are here based in Berlin. We have a strong focus on politics and also very distinctly left-leaning perspective, and I'm not afraid to show this. And we are also a proud syndication partner of the British Guardian. So you can read a lot of Guardian texts from us in German. And over the years you can see this layout transformation. In 2009 there was this major relaunch and the acquisition of Der Freitag through Jakob Augstein. In 2009 we had a cover redesign. The logo moves to the top. We got rid of a lot of lines. And in 2023 we changed our headline font. We're still using Lucas de Gros for the body text. And got rid of even more lines, and there's just more white space, and I'm very happy how it turned out. Made by our art director, Lisa Kolbe. And this is me, and this is why I chose punk. In 2004, I desperately wanted to play in a punk rock band. I don't have really musical talent. It lasted 2 weeks, my career, and then I started to design a web page and band shirts. And punk rock music was, for my upbringing, very transformative and influential because I grew up in rural Brandenburg and full of right-wing idiots. And I also started in that time doing editorial design. With a lot of friends, we started to design the school newspaper with CorelDRAW. And it was my first contact with design. I never thought that this could be a job. And as you can see, I also did a redesign. And between Schülerzeitung Virus and Der Freitag, I studied design in Potsdam. I did a master's degree in European Media Studies. I started a freelance career, and since 2018 I'm working for Der Freitag. And how does punk and editorial design connect? Of course on a personal level, but I think it's just not about the aesthetics, but also about the ethics. You can, of course, apply punk visuals in editorial design, and this is a great work from my colleague Ira. I like this fanzine look, but it's not just about the aesthetics, as I said. So today I would like to show you some short insights in my work. And we start with der Why, or the human touch in a machine-made world. Why am I so tired? That was a weekly topic 2 years ago, and that was like the editorial team's idea of how this could look like. And I didn't like this human battery comparison because it feels too technical and not really emotional. So I started with the photo research because it's not only part of my job to illustrate every title, but more like finding the right visual language. And I really liked this weird body postures showing exhaustion. And I also felt that topic a lot because I had like a baby toddler at home keeping me up all night. But this looked more like a fashion magazine and not like a political newspaper. So I started grabbing my pen, and this is like a usual round of collecting ideas each week. I have like 3 days to design a title. And I also wanted to keep these weird body postures and also like the idea of this screen overload, doom scrolling, world is on fire. But in the end, everyone felt that these big eyes were the best design because it's nice when a newspaper cover is looking at you in a way. And then I tried to find the right graphic implementation. And it's really funny how the quickest draft is sometimes the best. So we decided to go with it. And here you can see the double page spread where I use an alternative idea for the cover design. Because every week I design a lot for the recycle bin. And so it's nice if you can use another illustration. This is not an accusation of copying, but I like how cover twins come about because, I don't know, I think great ideas or obvious ideas are floating around, and it's nice if you see Big Brother making a similar cover. And I don't really have a set illustration style, like finding the right visual language also applies to finding the right style for each topic. So these are more examples that are more handcrafted or more refined or more reduced. Off the grid, anarchy in the layout. We have like this beautiful tradition when doing the last edition of the year. It's always like a special edition, monothematic and with a strong visual concept. And in 2023, the topic was rescue or being rescued. And a kind of like obvious take is to do it with comic book heroes because they're going to rescue every day. And it was so much fun to just let loose a little and use like classic comic book elements like panels, sound words, speed lines. And we commissioned a lot of illustrators and comic book artists. It was a logistical nightmare, but I'm really happy how it turned out. And I had so much fun designing a like Freitag hero with red hair and who just wants to save the world. And it's maybe one of my all-time favorite editions. Another one was last year, totally different. 2024, we had like this interview, only interviews in the whole edition, and it was about tipping points and debates, and we didn't have like a really photo concept, but more like a typographic one, and started to enlarge the typography, to tilt the letters, and it was also really fun to apply more like magazine-like formats in a newspaper. Yeah. 50 Shades of Marx. I think punk is political, and working for a political newspaper, the visual storytelling should also reflect this. I think over the last year we did every imaginable illustration of Karl Marx because he always comes up. I don't know, we imagined him as Santa Claus, Greta Thunberg, Mickey Mouse. it's kind of like with his writing. It's seemingly dusty, but I think you can always discover something new. And yeah, it's kind of like a running gag. Another not so fun part of my job is that I had to visually grapple with the society's shift to the right or right-wing violence. This is always like a very big challenge, and I did this in kind of like a humorous way, like this blonde hunting dog wearing a Gauland tie. I don't know if anyone remembers after the 2017 election, after politician Alexander Gauland wore this tie with a blonde dog on it and was shouting, we will hunt her down, or wir werden sie jagen, claiming Merkel and the established parties. I don't know. I think that's a nice way of making fun of him. I did this also in a more subtle way, like with this swastika symbol and about right-wing hate speech with the message icon. And I think here are also not so good examples, like with the police hat, because it's too subtle and nobody sees that there's a federal eagle in black, white, and red. But it's okay. Sometimes you just need a shit emoji. And this is a very recent example. Usually I try to keep the cover and the double page in the same visual language. But in this case, the first article is more like a personal report from Cottbus, where the protagonists didn't want to show their faces or didn't want to read their names in the newspaper. So we decided to go with more like comic-like illustrations of the assault scenarios these people were facing. And for the title, I went for a more populistic approach, doing a photo collage. Yeah, try and error, the art of getting to the final cover. You've already seen some alternative designs, and I want to show a bit more, because as I said, every week I design a lot for the recycle bin. And that's really fitting for the previous part. Who's Afraid of Antifa was the title I made, one of my first, I guess, in 2018. And it's about how Antifa in Germany works and what they're doing and why they're so defamed. And one obvious idea was to show like this cliche image of the black bloc, but it felt like a bit lame, and also this demonstration kit with the megaphone and the balaclava. And I thought, there's like the saying, Antifa remains handcrafted, so I chose to make a stuffy hand-embroidered pillow, but nothing of this really felt right. So I stepped back and thought, maybe you need some handwritten typography, because not only Antifa bleibt Handarbeit, but also graphic design. Take your worst felt tip pen you have and to write 100 times or more, because in the repetition you can capture the raw emotion, in this case more like anger. And I think the final design is still one of my, favorite titles, because it's so plain, black and white. But I don't know, I really still like it. The Sedated Republic is also a more recent example about the drowsy coalition negations between CDU and SPD, and it deals also with the question if any of this is actually intentional. So these were my moods. Two very influential masters for me, Matt Groening and Walt Disney. And I tried to convey this psychedelic, sleepy mood. Our editor-in-chief loves the idea of a garden gnome as like a German cliché. I was not so sure about it, but I also have to try the ideas of others, of course. I also thought it would be a great idea to make like a psychedelic pattern, but it turns out it's really hard to put typography on it, and it looks kind of lame. Strange highlight is the garden gnome with the psychedelic eyes. And also the GroKo sleeping pill doesn't really work, because if you have to read too much on a title, it really doesn't work. So we decided to go with the last two ones and to put the Federal Eagle and the garden gnome in front of a TV, comatose. And I think it's really important that the title is funny or emotional and that it's easy to understand. And on the inside, I like to get a little more cryptic illustration, or because it's fun to discover. And in that case, I don't know, we have Friedrich Merz as a sheep watching the sleepless Federal Eagle and feeding sleeping pills. It's kind of like over to the top, I admit that. But I think if you have time to read a page and to discover an illustration, it's also fun for the reader, because the following pages are often really harsh political photographs. So we also try to watch the dramaturgy of a newspaper. Yeah, I think AI is a whole nother talk, and we can all talk about hours. But for me, it was just fun to ask ChatGPT, oh, please make me a Shaun the Sheep look, claymation style of my final illustration. And I was really stunned how good it turned out. And I decided against using it, because I think it's very important to us to use AI as a tool, especially in the creation process. But in the end, we all value in our art department the human touch. And for us, it's also very important that we didn't cut our budgets for commissions for photographers and illustrators. I don't know, because we also don't want to abolish ourselves. Yeah, but it's still an interesting ongoing question. That's why I showed it. Yeah, embrace the imperfection. We're coming to the end of my talk. I have like 50 or more like 45 attempts in a year to make a great cover. Not all of them are good. And when studying design, we were told that specialization is everything, that you have to find your thing, like typography, photography, layout, I don't know. And I always felt I like doing all of these things. I'm maybe not perfect, but I want to do all of these things, and I was always a little bit insecure. And now I'm happy that I landed in a place where a more diverse skill set is valued. So this is more like to encourage you to be a bit more imperfect. Yeah, some of these takes for you are, of course, kind of obvious, but I also need to remind myself in the boring everyday life that I have to break the rules. And sometimes you have to break the rules to make design better, but sometimes you just have to break the rules to have more fun. We have like a bit of the habit of hiding little Easter eggs in our designs. So this is the cat of our art director. This is me, our art director Lisa Kolbe, and our head of image Ann-Christine. Just no purpose, but it was so much fun. Yeah, stay naive, stay curious. I think that's the hardest part, to remember this like childhood curiosity. But the older I get, I think it's really fun how I remember my childhood heroes. And here we have Sandmännchen. He's German identification hero. Embrace mistakes. Like I said, 50 covers in a year. Not all of them are great. Most of them are okay or good. And this one is not a good one, I think, because like an Easter bunny in a military helmet as a message for peace, I don't know. I wouldn't do that again. But it's okay, because I don't want to torture myself for mistakes. And it's okay to move on and remember why you made them. Experiment disrupt is also kind of like an obvious one, but in this case, we just wanted to grapple this delicate topic of sex in Islam. And you could do that with Arabic ornaments or with historical illustrations, but I thought I don't have the cultural background to do any of this, and we don't have the time to commission this. So I went with more like sexy typography, and I think that's more like a modern approach. And I'm so thankful that we didn't go the obvious route. That's the most important thing. Don't take design too seriously, because in the end we're just designers or creatives, and no one is going to die if we make mistakes. I think that's kind of relieving. This example, it's maybe a bit too funny to illustrate the oddities of the coronavirus pandemic with vintage horror illustrations, but I feel that sometimes you need this comic relief. And yeah, I don't have to get into this too far, but yeah, take your worst pen, do it yourself. And thank you very much.